The podcast you're about to hear involves true stories, which may contain graphic content that is not suitable for children. Listener's discretion is advised. This is Esoteric Oddities.
Hey, guys. Oh.
I might have ringworm.
Oh.
Guys, I have this really weird... It's just a circle rash on my neck, and it's been there for a week, and I looked up ringworm, and it looks exactly like it.
I know, but you also... The internet's going to tell you a million things, but now you're psyching yourself out.
I'm terrified. So, hi, I'm going to go fall in a ditch, and then you're going to bury me to death, and we're not going to tell anyone about it.
Okay, we're not going to tell anybody except for all of these listeners.
Yeah, it's fine. They won't tell anyone either. Right? Guys? I'll come haunt you all.
You sound like that girl at recess who's like, well, you're not going to tell the teacher, are you?
Are you Susan?
Right?
I can't imagine like a 4-year-old named Susan.
Me neither. I can't imagine the fact that Susan Boyle was a child. Susan Boyle was on Britain's Got Talent, I think.
Susan Boyle.
I know, but she's like a really good singer.
That's good for her.
Yeah. Wonder what happened to her. Hope she's doing well. Can I just tell you how I went to... Okay, this was a mistake on my part, and I don't know why I did it, but I never go to Starbucks. You know this? Like, I really don't go to Starbucks.
You don't go really anywhere. Where do you even get your coffee?
I make coffee here because I drink too much of it to spend money on it like that.
Wow. The truth comes out.
Literally, the big canisters.
Yeah.
By myself.
I know you have that really nasty coffee right now.
I threw that was one can ago. That was a whole can ago.
You already went through that?
I went through that one and that one that's right behind you in the recycling bin. The big one.
So you have no coffee?
No, I have a small thing from Wawa that was like $9 and it's only going to get me
good.
It's really not. I'd rather have Folgers. I don't like Folgers. Oh.
Mr. Folgers.
It's a Star Wars toy from like the 90s that Carly gave me because her cat Pumpkin used to play with it, but Buffy's uninterested.
What do you do with it?
It like shoots little discs.
Oh.
And the cat chases the disc.
She had a cat named Pumpkin?
Yeah, it died. But Mark likes to play with it, so I keep it here for Mark.
Oh, we love Mark. Also, Mark is a 26-year-old man, not a baby.
Yes, but he likes to play with Star Wars.
When Mark comes here, I leave it to play with him.
I was fucking dead because he was shooting them and it got jammed and it stopped. And then he pulled the jam out and he said, "Woo, good thing that didn't happen while we were in the trenches." I was rolling on the fucking floor.
In the trenches?
He says the funniest shit. He cracks me. I honestly think Mark is probably
really
the funniest
but he
person
doesn't
I know. That's what I'm saying is like he'll say things that come to mind and it's just so fucking funny.
Yeah, like sweeping shadows.
Yo, Sarah was so lit a couple days ago. We were making sushi, which we'll get into. Wait, hold on. Wait, let's rewind. Okay. We have 4 different stories going on. Okay, Starbucks. All right, sorry, let's reverse. Okay, just going to preface, I'm very hungover right now. I had Friendsgiving last night, so like I'm a little spacey,
I didn't have any giving last night. I have ringworm.
Oh my god.
Yes, I am giving a lot of giving because
you're gonna be spreading that fucking shit. I'm just saying, if that's contagious, wear a damn scarf and tell people you're sick.
I'm sick.
So I go to Starbucks and it's crowded as fuck. I'm already late for my therapy appointment. This person in front of me gets their fucking coffee extra hot. What?
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing, but what psychotic person, like what terrorist does that?
Yeah, no.
Their coffee's already fucking hot enough. Get yourself a reusable Contigo cup or what's it called?
And keep it hot.
A Yeti. Yeah, get yourself a fucking insulated cup and that shit will stay hot for hours. You do not need, if you're going a long distance, I get it. You want your coffee to be hot for as long as possible, but that shit's already piping motherfucking hot.
What the fuck?
Straight out the fucking, what is that called? The mountains that spew out lava. Volcano.
I'm just confused. I didn't know that you can go in there and request it to be extra hot.
I don't even know if they can make it extra hot.
It's just hot because like it's hot. Like there's no like.
They were like,
there's no levels to this shit.
Caramel macchiato. Can caramel macchiato extra hot for Daniel? Right. Is there a fucking
extra hot here?
Is there a fucking demonic Daniel in the house? Who does that? Why would you do that?
Okay.
Just a question. Okay, and then what did we start talking about after that?
Fucking me.
Oh, fucking you. It's literally sushi. We were talking. We're not. Sarah and I have this thing where we try to make sushi and fail every time. It's this really cute trend we have going for us. So we're making sushi, and the kitchen becomes a mess. If you guys have made sushi, it's fun. I always have fun doing it, but it's always a fucking mess.
You have to wet the both sides of the seaweed. Roll it like you were rolling a blunt.
Yes.
And then like roll it, the already rolled thing, into the little like, what is that?
The bamboo thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't.
That's how I made it for Na. And
yeah,
it was like that was the best blunt.
That was the best one that was put together. But then here's the thing. The seaweed is so tough, and Sarah's knives weren't sharp enough. My knives aren't sharp enough. Yeah. So I'm not coming for your cutlery, boo.
My knives are dull, and my lives are dull.
We love a themed episode. And we couldn't cut them, so we just eat them like a fucking burrito. So anyway, Sarah and I are making these Johns, sitting there, and Sarah's just sweeping. She's lit as hell, and she is literally sweeping shadows, thinking that it's dirt. I was crying, and then that caused me to drop some pieces of my sushi burrito on the floor, which she then swept with the shadows and then dropped. It was a mess that day a little bit. And then we watched fucking Disney Plus, as you know, on the forefront of everybody's conversations. Disney Plus. But listen, Motocross, we watched, and right away Sarah and I knew that they changed the first song because it wasn't You're an Ocean by fucking Fastball.
You're an ocean.
Settle down. What's the commotion? I just love that we both knew it was that.
Right, and we're like, this isn't here?
Right. I'm telling you, they had to have, because I also watched Alley Cat Strike, which Kaylee Cuoco was in that. The bitch from
You watched Alley Cat Strike?
Yeah. Did you ever see that?
Yes.
Well, they changed a lot of the party scene music because it was like poppin' songs from like the year 2000. So they replaced it with like songs that are 2019-ish.
What the fuck?
Like it really is. It's like jarring. But anyway,
I hate when they change the songs. Like that's what makes the scene.
I know, but I guess they just couldn't get the rights to it or something. I don't know. Because then they had half of the rest of the songs were in there. Same with Can of Worms. Dude, we watched a lot of fucking movies. I've been watching So Weird. Did you ever watch that show as a kid?
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about that before. We've
always watched movies. That's like our thing.
Yeah. I don't really watch movies with anybody else.
I'm always like, let's watch that movie.
But before you came over, I was watching So Weird. That shit was a bop. If y'all like this podcast, which I'm sure you do because you're listening to this, and you have Disney Plus and you don't know what So Weird is, go fucking watch it. It's with Eric Von Tussle. Nope, that's not right. That's
Von Tussle.
That's from fucking Hairspray.
What the fuck?
I forget what his last name was. He was like the heartthrob back in the day. He was Brink.
Oh.
And then Mackenzie Phillips played the mom. I feel bad for her. She's been through some shit.
Really?
Yeah. Talk about daddy
Eric
issues.
Von Denton?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. With Christine Bydel.
Who's that? Oh, she was the cousin. She replaced Fee.
Yeah.
Fee was the original girl who is actually from Mary-Kate and Ashley, Whipped Cream Pouring Like Waterfalls from the pizza thing. You remember that song?
Whipped cream pouring like waterfalls.
Yeah, she played Fee.
Wow.
So great show on Disney Plus. This is not sponsored, though it should be.
It should be. Everyone should sponsor us so we talk about.
Hell yeah.
Including shadow crumbs on the floor.
Oh, God.
I think I have ringworm.
And that's a great segue into, if you guys want to get some merch, head on over to esotericoddities.com. If you want bonus content, you can go to patreon.com/esotericoddities, or it's linked on our website at the top. It says bonus content. You can go ahead. It's a great way to support the show. We greatly appreciate it. And if you don't want to do that, we totally get it. The holiday season is coming, so you can cop yourself. So please stop doing
I've been doing that a lot. Sign. I've just been throwing up the peace sign every day. Like when my job is really busy and shit is chaotic, and every time I see my coworkers, I'm like,
MySpace. Oh God! But if you want to get yourself, treat yourself, or an ugly friend to a holiday gift from Esoteric Oddities, or just tell an ugly friend to fucking listen to us. That's a good way to support the show, and we greatly appreciate that shit. So today's topic, I'm excited about because I can't really remember the last time we covered this topic. Today we are talking about UFOs. That's right, UFOs.
UFOs.
Unidentified
flying object.
Love that cough in there.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I think I go first. Yes, I go first.
Yeah.
Also, before we get started, Sarah and I have matching pimples.
Oh my, we really do. We both have one on our nose and we both woke up with it.
We are ready for Rudolph season.
Honestly,
we are here and queer and ready to fucking get holly and jolly. Okay, anyway, let's get into the story.
Let's jump in.
Guys, I'm
not well today. I feel like I'm not hungover and there's nothing wrong with me.
I think you're absorbing my energy though.
I'm not even high. I'm just like, I think I have ringworm. And
probably.
I'm like very taken aback. I've never gotten like anything like that in my 27 years of life.
It might not even be that. You could just literally be psyching yourself out. But I know that that doesn't help because now all you're going to do is think about it. Minimize that screen right now. Okay. Close your laptop. Stop looking up ringworm. I need your undivided attention.
Wait, why did you take that away from me?
Because I have 13%. Oh. I'm giving it back. That's your punishment because you have ringworm.
I hope your computer dies.
Okay, here we go. So a lot of my material came from MUFON.com, MUFON.com. It's the Mutual UFO Network, as well as Skeptical Inquirer, allthat'sinteresting.com, and Wikipedia, which my dad pronounces Wikipedia.
Why? Why?
I don't know. He also says salsa instead of salsa.
No.
And he's listening to this right now, Dad. I'm not cutting you up. Love you, but it's salsa.
It's salsa, not salsa.
Okay.
But it's okay. You say whatever you want.
You salsa it up, Dad. Okay. All right. So this is about Frederick Valentich. Have you heard of him?
I have not.
So Frederick Valentich. Valentich, actually, I think it's pronounced Valentich. He was born on June 9th, 1958 in Melbourne, Australia. He lived at home with his parents and his 3 siblings in Avondale Heights. He attended the Keeler Heights High School. If I'm saying that wrong, I don't really care. And he went to that high school until his sophomore year. He then transferred into a private college where he excelled. He applied twice to enlist in the Royal Australian Air Force, but was rejected because of inadequate educational qualifications. So he did well in like public school and then his private school, but when it came to studying to get into the Air Force, not so good on that part. But he was really passionate about flying and aviation, and he decided to join the Air Training Corps, and he was pretty much just determined that that would give him the time and the training to become a commercial pilot. So on February 24th, 1977, he earned his student pilot license and got his private pilot license September of that year. And again, we're in 1977, lots of earth tones.
It's here. People are
wearing popped collars, suede jumpsuits. What else did they have? Gaucho pants.
I love gauchos.
Okay, just really painting the picture for you, baby. So not sure if he was like the greatest pilot of all time, but also he was young. He was like in his late teens. So after earning his private license, Fred began studying part-time to become a commercial pilot, as I said before, but he had a poor achievement record. So, okay, this is a quote directly from an article that is linked below. Having twice failed all 5 commercial license examination subjects, and as recent as the previous month, this was before the incident happened, he had failed 3 or more commercial license subjects. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8. I counted with my fingers because math was not a pass I classed. Strike that, reverse it.
Class. Wow. Are you okay?
I think the answer is no. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm trying to hold it together. And I know
doing a great job.
Y'all are fucking listening to this on a Monday, so God bless ya. God
bless ya.
So he wasn't doing too great in the aviation world, but he really enjoyed doing it. But keep that in mind. So he had also been involved in flying incidents. He received a warning after straying into a controlled zone in Sydney on 2 different occasions, which is a big no-no, and an incident where he deliberately was flying into the clouds, which is an incident that is so serious that prosecution was being considered for him specifically. Ooh. So they were like, bruh, stop fucking around up there. Get your shit together. So When he wasn't in the sky, he was working as a shop assistant at the Army disposal store in Mondi Ponds. Come on down to Mondi Ponds, which was nearby. And according to his father, Guido, yes, his father's name was Guido.
I love that.
Fred was, quote, a firm believer in UFOs and, quote, worried about attacks from UFOs, end quote. So apparently this was a thing, but I'll get a little bit more into that later when we talk about theories about what happened. So Fred had a class 4 instrument rating and 150 hours of flight experience. Both of those things, I don't fucking know what they mean. Is that good? Is that bad? Is 150 hours like a lot, or is it not?
A week or 2 weeks?
Just his flight experience is what I'm talking about. So his like consecutive airtime logged is 150 hours.
Yeah. So like let's say 120 is 2 hours. I guess that's not bad. So 120 would be 2 hours, and then the additional 50 would be.
What are you talking about?
You said the airtime. Airtime,
yeah. He was in the air for 150 hours.
Oh, I'm talking about like. Well, 120 minutes.
No. Okay. I'm talking about his like. This is how much experience he had. So he had he had flown for 150 hours. He had driven in the sky.
I feel like
for 150 hours. I don't know what that's relative to. Anyway, let's. You tried to explain minutes into hours for me. I appreciate the thought.
I'm the same person that said 31M, so I don't know why you were even listening to me.
I was just confused as to what you were saying. Anyway, so he had a plan. He had a flight plan at Moorabbin Airport in Melbourne on October 21st, 1978. So what he was going to do was he was going to fly 50 miles each way, and that would be a 90-minute flight for him. He told his friends and family and his girlfriend that he was going to King Island to pick up an order of crayfish. So before you take the flight, I guess you fill out this flight plan thing, and he said that his intention to go there, to go to King Island in Bass Strait via Cape Otway, he was going to pick up 4 friends who are going to ride as passengers and then return back to Moorabbin. So basically he told his family he was picking up crayfish, but in his flight plan he said that he was picking up 4 friends and coming back, and he actually had taken 4 additional life jackets with him.
Oh, he said.
So I
need all of them.
Don't know if he was going to go get crawfish, what he would need 4 life jackets for. Any huevos.
Well, if they're fish.
They don't need life jackets. It's what?
I don't know. Isn't it like a life vest?
Yes.
Isn't he going in the water? He's going to get crawfish.
He's picking up a shipment. He's not going fishing.
Oh, well.
He's a pilot, not a fucking fisherman. Sarah, stick with me.
I am here, but you said.
He's picking up an order of like a cargo order.
Oh.
His girlfriend, Rhonda Rushton, who was 16 at the time, he was 20 at the time, she allegedly, according to her, that she was supposed to fly with him that day, but she was working at the pharmacy and could not get out of work early enough. So he ended up flying by himself. He rented a Cessna 182L. Don't fucking know what that is, but I know what a picture of it looks like. I'll post it on social media. It's basically like a small single engine plane, like the type,
right?
The smaller fucking planes.
It's not a private. Probably like a single one.
Mm-hmm. So he departed the airport at Moorabbin, which I'm probably saying wrong, but eat my ass, at 6:19 p.m. He contacted the Melbourne Flight Service Unit to inform them of his presence. The plane was fueled to capacity, which meant that he had enough fuel basically to last up to 300 minutes of airtime. At 6:43, the sun began to set, and at 7 o'clock p.m. on the nose, he reported reaching Cape Otway. So essentially, like when you're flying, he was flying over a big body of water, but you don't want to fly directly over a body of water. You want to like cling on to the land, just in case anything were to happen.
You don't want to fall in the water and then you're going to Amelia Earnhardt yourself.
Amelia who?
Earnhardt?
Okay.
Who is it?
Earhart.
Earnhardt. Earhart. I'm not on my game today. I don't know what's going on. I have ringworm.
Well, but it's sucking the life out of you.
I feel like that now.
It's sucking your brains out. Okay, so anyway, at 7:06 p.m., Fred reached... Oh, I didn't even finish my thought there. So sorry. He was flying like over land. So it's kind of like, I'm going to put a picture on social media of like what it's looking like, or you can go to our website and click on episodes. And it's just like, it's like kind of like an L where he's got any huevos. So At 7:06, Fred reached a cruising speed of 256 kilometers per hour or 160 miles per hour, which it's also important to note that even though it was getting dark, the weather was nice, visibility was good, and the winds were light. At 7:06 p.m., Fred radioed the Melbourne flight service officer. This dude's name is Steve Roby. And Fred asked Steve for any information on any other aircraft nearby which was flying below 5,000 feet. Steve was like, there is no other traffic at that level. Why do you ask? So this is a guy in a control tower talking to the pilot who's flying. So Fred's like, I see a fucking large-ass aircraft, and it appears to be illuminated by 4 bright landing lights. So then Steve is then like, well, what type of aircraft carrier, or what type of aircraft is it? Fred said he's not sure the type, but it's one he's never seen before, and it passes about, according to Fred, 1,000 feet overhead at a high speed. And then Fred tells Steve that the aircraft was then, like, it disappeared, and then the aircraft was approaching him from the east side, and he said the pilot might be purposely fucking with him. So then at 7:09 p.m., Steve asked Fred to confirm his altitude. Fred reports that he is 4,500 feet, and he describes the aircraft. So I read the documents, like you can see the interaction, but I've listened to people like reenact it, and it basically sounds like when Steve is asking Fred these questions, he's like nonchalantly confirming, but it sounds like he's staring at something out the window, like trying to figure out like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Yeah.
Explaining what it is.
Right. So he then says that the aircraft was long and it was traveling too fast for him to describe it in more detail. So then the transmitter goes silent for 30 seconds. Then Steve asks for an estimate of the aircraft's size. Fred does not tell him an estimate of the size, but he said the aircraft was, quote, orbiting above him.
Oh, shit.
And he said it seemed to be shiny and metal on the surface. And then he noted that there was a green light on it. And then there was 28 seconds of silence. Then Fred reported that the aircraft had vanished. Another 25 seconds of silence passed on the transmitter before Fred reported that it was now approaching him from the southwest. Then, just seconds later, at 7:12 p.m., Fred reported that he was experiencing engine problems and was going to proceed to King Island. So then there's another brief silence until Fred said, it's hovering and it's not an aircraft.
Ooh.
This was then followed by 17 seconds of unidentified noise, but is described to be metallic scraping sounds, and then all contact was lost. Steve sent a search and rescue immediately at 7:12 p.m. When Fred failed to arrive at King Island by 7:33, an air and sea search was undertaken. So there were 2 RAAF P-3 Orion. I don't fucking know anything about planes. They were these aircrafts, and they searched for an entire week. So during the search, there was a fuel slick that was discovered near the location where Fred had last radioed Steve, but an analysis of it proved that it was not aviation fuel. What it was, I don't know. They never further explained it, but they said it is not from his plane. Oh. So I was like, oh, okay. If the plane had crashed into sea, first off, remember, he's not all the way out in like the middle of the fucking ocean. He's like going down this channel, and he's kind of close to land. And I think he was about 15 minutes away from the airport at King Island, which was about 4,500 feet, and at a height of 4,500 feet. So then on October 25th, 1978, they found nothing, and the 7-day search was called off. There was a 2-week-long Department of Transportation investigation into Fred's disappearance that was conducted. So during this time, investigators learned there were no other passengers waiting to be picked up at King Island, and he had not ordered any sort of crawfish or crayfish that he was going to pick up. So it was like, well, you told 2 different people 2 sets of things, and neither of them seemed to be true. And also, something strange was that they didn't know that he was coming in. So it was like nighttime. The sun went down while he was flying, so it would have been dark by the time he got there. And the King Island airport was small, like it's for smaller planes. So he would have had to call somebody ahead of time and be like, hey, I'm on my way. Can you turn the lights on? Because they have to turn on the fucking landing strip lights.
And he didn't do that?
He didn't do that.
Ooh, where was he going?
Right. The investigator, sir. Hello.
The investigator, sir. It's fine. This is going to be a delight for y'all. Trying to listen to us skip over words for the next hour and a half.
Not quite sure what that noise was. We're just going to continue. Mark did say he heard somebody walking up the stairs today. And I was like, it was probably the neighbors. And he was standing next to the stairs. He's like, no, it sounded like there was literally footsteps right next to my ear walking up the stairs. So it's all good. So the investigators listened to Fred's final recorded transmission, of which has not been released to the public except for those 17 seconds of unexplained noise. So the actual recording you can't get a hold of. To my knowledge, I dug deep and it seems like nobody else can find it. So I don't think it was released. However, you can find the transcript, that full conversation, because I just kind of gave you the rundown. Right. Because it's a lot of like, Roger, over, Niner, Roger. And I'm like, I can't fuck with that shit. Is Niner a thing? What does it mean? I don't know. Hi. So I just gave you all the cliff notes. Yeah. If we have any pilot daddies here? Oh, or pilot mommies. Yes. Please tell me. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm just joking. Me neither, but like, I'm just, equality is what I'm getting I'm just joking. But yeah. Hi. Can anyone tell us what Niner means? I know that I can look it up, but like, I want to hear from you. Okay. So then we can tell our ugly friends that a real pilot told us. You're not wrong. If you're a real pilot, be a real one. Anyway, no, I'm not even going to finish that question. So investigators received an edited copy. I repeat, an edited copy of the original voice tape from the Department of Transportation. On this file, it says this is an edited copy. They didn't specify what they edited out. They didn't specify anything further. And when questioned about what this what this edit was, they just like didn't say what it was. So just keep that in mind. So those copies were sent away to be analyzed by two different institutions. One was sent to the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, and the other one went to the United States to be analyzed by Dr. Richard F. Haynes, who was actually a former researcher with NASA. I feel like, why aren't they talking more about the fact that he said he was going to get these crawfish and he didn't go? I'll get into that a little bit later. They're just trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. It seems like everything was half-baked from the jump. Also, remember, he wasn't the best pilot. He only had 150 hours. Well, he fucking failed all his classes, and he was flying into clouds and flying over spaces that he wasn't supposed to fly over. Oh. So, Dr. Haynes described the metal sounds that you listened to. He had a clearer version, and he listened to the whole thing. And he said it was 36 separate bursts with fairly constant start and stop pulses, bounding each other, and no discernible patterns in time or frequency. So then something interesting happened. There was a man named Roy Manifold, and he was actually on the beach, kind of where he had last been radioed to Steve. Right. So this dude is standing on the beach and he has a camera and he's taking pictures of the sunset over the water. He takes, I want to say 6, it might have been 8. He takes either 6 or 8 photographs of the sun setting over the water, and it was on a tripod on the shoreline. And when the film was developed, the photographs appeared to show a fast moving object exiting the water near the Cape Otway lighthouse. The time that those pictures were taken was at 6:47 p.m., which was just 20 minutes before Fred had reported having engine trouble in that area. So I will also post that photograph on social media. It's a good one. You'll want to see it. Give us your thoughts on what you think it actually might be. So this photograph was later further examined by Phoenix, Arizona-based UFO group Ground Saucer Watch, or GSW, with a number of independent experts. Though the pictures were not clear enough to identify the object, these experts believe that the distance that the object moved between frames relative to the clouds in the background indicate that the object was traveling at a speed of roughly 200 miles per hour. It kind of looks like this blobby UFO thing. Picture? Yeah, I'll show it to you in a second. Well, so Dr. Haynes, which is this dude who worked for NASA, he wrote about the photographs. He said, based on the computerized data of the pictures, it is consensus of the GSW technicians that the image represents a bona fide unknown flying object of moderate dimensions. Apparently, surrounded by a cloud-like vapor or exhaust residue. The fact that this was brought up, a lot of UFO skeptics are saying it's something wrong with the camera. You know, you have a million reasons.
They always say that, or like you pulled it and like it blurred. So
right.
Like,
but I mean, looking at the picture, it's like it could literally be either or. I just think it's weird.
But also, it's a fucking extraterrestrial thing. Like, of course, you're not going to get a full fucking clear picture of the shit.
Well, they don't know if it is. We can't just like assume that it is. This is an investigation.
I know, but like, I'm just so tired of people saying aliens aren't real.
It is a very emotional time for both of us. After news of Frederick Valentich's disappearance became public, a number of individuals reported witnessing unusual activity in the same area at the same time. Some people claimed to have seen an erratically moving green light in the sky, and in one instance, witnesses said that they located about 2 kilometers, which is a little bit more than 1 mile, west of Apollo Bay, Victoria. They said that they saw a green light trailing off or shadowing Fred's plane. That's
okay.
People
so
are saying that they claimed
from
that
where?
they saw the same area, but also these are just people claiming to have seen it. So his disappearance goes public, and then kind of a bunch of people start saying like, yes, I saw a green light in the sky too. So it's like, did you, or is it like everybody just kind of jumping in on this?
Right.
So the Department of Transport was unable to determine the cause of the incident. However, they did report that it was presumed fatal, meaning that Fred was assumed to be dead. So the following spring, on April 27th, 1982, a report published a summarized version of the radio conversations between Fred and Steve, which is what I told you about. So fast forward to 2012, the Australian Government Department of Transport file was opened after the 20-year rule. So basically 20 years passes and they release it to the public. So this document is 315 pages in length, and I skimmed through it.
Why did they wait so long?
It's after 20 years. That's just the law. That's just how it goes. So like if things are like, do not show the, right. I guess. I don't know how the government works in Australia. So that same year in 2012, a seemingly unrelated Australian document, which was also under the 20-year rule, was publicly released. It was from the Department of Transport's Marine Operations Center, which is a marine search and rescue, which was listed in the collections of the National Archives of Australia, or the NAA. The Australian researcher, this dude, his name is Keith Basterfield, he reviewed both of the fucking government documents, and he found that in the second document that I had mentioned that seemed unrelated, it stated that, quote, parts of aircraft wreckage with partial matching serial numbers to Frederick's plane were found in the Bass Strait 5 years after the disappearance. End quote. So basically, they found minimal parts of an aircraft in the water, and it had a serial number on it. And since it was a rented plane, the serial number, it didn't exactly match because it didn't have all of the numbers on it.
Oh, because
it was the partial numbers,
probably.
Right? But the numbers that were there matched the series that he would have rented. So they may have found a piece of his plane. Don't know, but basically, they never found his plane. Nobody knows what happened to Frederick. He just disappeared. So here's some additional information before I get into the theories about what happened to our buddy Fred here. So before Fred left the airport, like I said, just keep that in mind that he didn't call for the other place to turn on the lights. So if he would have got there, he would have been fucked anyway when he got to King Island. Mm-hmm. Also,
because there were no lights on.
Right. It was his 4-month anniversary with his girlfriend Rhonda. So they were going to either go out for a late dinner or do something special, because he told her that he would be back by 7:30, which would have been impossible considering his departure was at 6 p.m. and it's a 90-minute flight. So the Victorian UFO Action Group they heard from a farmer who lived nearby in Adelaide, don't know where that is. He reported witnessing a 35...
Adelaide's in Australia.
Thanks, because it is in Australia. Yes, you got me there.
Oh wait, were you being sarcastic when you were like, I don't know where that is?
Well, I said it. I don't know exactly where it is, but this whole story takes place in Australia. Hi, welcome. So he said he witnessed a 30-meter craft hovering over his property the morning after Fred went missing, but the dude didn't want to step forward and like say who he was. Right. Another piece of information, I found conflicting info in my research. One source said that he disappeared from a radar, but in the same fucking article, it said he was never on the radar, like the actual physical radar for the dude.
Could it be that he didn't fly there at all? Like, I guess it's proven that he was definitely like in the air over this body of water.
We don't know because
like, could he not be? Could he have not been there at all?
It's possible.
Okay,
it is. It's possible because one, again, like that's where I'm kind of confused. I feel like that's a huge piece of information. That's like, was he there or wasn't he there? Because some people are like, he was on the radar and then he disappeared. In the same exact article, they said he was never on the radar, so they don't even know if he was there. And I'm like, bro, this is come on.
And
now.
like, it's a little sketchy that he didn't ask for the lights to be turned on.
Right.
But we'll see.
Right. So also important to know, there was also that night and a few nights before and a few nights after a reported meteor shower. So some people are thinking what other people saw or possibly what Fred saw were meteors because it was reported that, you know, there was a meteor shower. Night flying, especially over water, can be really fucking difficult because there's no like point of reference. Because if you're over land, you can at least, like, if you're flying low enough, you can see lights. But if you're flying over water, it's just pitch black. So these are just things to keep in mind. So let's talk theories. There is one theory that he was possibly drug smuggling, or he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, though there's not too much to back this up. Another theory is that Fred had staged his own disappearance.
Oh.
People think maybe he had planned on going missing, and some people think he's still out there alive somewhere. Like you said, or the point you brought up, he may not have even been over there at that time. However, he was close enough to the radio tower that he did radio into that one guy. But again, I don't know what that means.
Anything.
Right. He also could have stopped radioing and just like went somewhere else. So he could have staged. He could have been like, I'm going to make it seem like I was abducted by aliens, or I crashed, or an aircraft shot me down, or some shit like that. Some people think he did that and that he's still alive and out there living his life as somebody else. Another theory kind of along the same lines was maybe Fred staged a UFO abduction, but it went wrong. So maybe he planned on, you know, having the story where he got abducted by aliens, and then he had some sort of plan that he was going to come back and be like, whoa, you guys won't believe what the fuck I saw.
Right.
Here's the proof. I saw this fucking thing and it was crazy and it was wild. Don't know. But then he may have accidentally crashed or something while doing it.
Right.
Maybe caused an accident.
They did find that stuff in the water.
Right. But also that wasn't proved to be his. It could have been
anyone else.
That was the serial number was from a nearby rental place, so it literally could have been anybody who rented anything. Another thought people had was suicide, but I mean that's kind of hard. I don't give that one much
really
credit.
Left field,
right? It's just
like not taking it away if he did, but it just doesn't seem like that's
right. There's this whole fucking correlation between him and this Steve dude. Anyway,
right. Also, why would he use like, I'm going to get crawfish?
Well, I don't know, because if it was maybe a suicide and he didn't want to make it look like one, that could have been a thing.
Right.
I don't know. I guess it is possible because he was like, maybe I'll go out this way and my legacy will be, people will think I got abducted by UFOs, which a lot of people fucking do. Not saying he didn't, not saying he did, not saying he committed suicide.
But we don't know.
Right. So what I think it was is this last theory, and it was that he was just an inexperienced pilot in a bad accident. So remember, he described seeing this aircraft or some sort of UFO flying, and he said that there were 4 points of bright lights. During this meteor shower, the sky was really clear, and Venus, Mars, Mercury, and the Taurus star were really fucking bright that night. And where they positioned themselves in the constellation is actually like an elongated diamond shape.
Oh.
So he could have, okay, remember when you're like a kid, well, I guess it's the same now, but when you're a kid, you're looking out the window in the back seat and you're like, the moon looks like it's following your car.
Right.
Because that's your perspective as the moon is traveling at the same time as you. And like, I guess it can be with the same with the stars above. And he had quoted that it was quote unquote orbiting above him. So he's flying really fast, and this aircraft, which could have just been stars, was hovering over him because his perspective, if it was the stars, they wouldn't be moving. It would look like they were staying stationary over top of his head. Mm-hmm. So then what happens when you're a little kid again? you're looking out the window, you're at a red light and you see the moon. Well, then what happens when mom or dad is driving and they turn the car right? It looks like the moon just fucking shoots back and around you, right? At a really fast speed. Mm-hmm. When in actuality, you're just turning. So there's this phenomenon that is called the graveyard spiral. So I'm going to try my best to explain this. Again, visuals are really important. And I'm not a professional, but I'm just going to read what Wikipedia says. Also, I encourage you to look at us, like our Instagram or Twitter about this episode, or go on our website because it really paints a better picture than I will with my words. So a graveyard spiral is a dangerous spiral dive entered into accidentally by a pilot who is not trained or not proficient in instrument flight when flying in instrument meteorological conditions. So essentially at night, you can't see. At night, you have to use your instruments, right? And if you're not really greatly trained, you might not be... Okay.
You're going to fall.
You're going to fall. You're going to fall right out of the sky.
Sorry.
So the spiral is also called the suicide spiral, the dead spiral, the death spiral, or the vicious spiral. Basically, they're most common at nighttime or with poor weather conditions where no horizon exists to give a visual correlation. Basically, misleading inner ear cues, so your balance is thrown off as the pilot. So graveyard spirals are the result of several sensory illusions which may occur in actuality or simulated when the pilot experiences spatial disorientation and loses awareness of the aircraft's altitude. Have you ever been, this literally could be me because I don't really know if anybody does this, but like if you're staring at your wall, if you're like laying down, you're staring at your wall, it can kind of like sometimes look like it's really far away. Okay.
Oh.
Well, maybe I was gonna say I can stare at a wall and be like, it can look like it's really far away, or it can look like it's right in front of your face.
Right.
That's just like an example. Probably not the best, but I can't think of anything
moving
right now.
Yeah.
The wall is moving. No, girl, that was just the crack.
You're not wrong.
I'm just kidding. You're not doing crack. Crack is cheap. And basically, your brain is thrown off. So it's night. He doesn't have any visual cues to say like if the ground is where it's supposed to be or not. So when you're turning in a plane. And sometimes it doesn't quite feel like you're turning in a plane. Well, I guess that's in a commercial plane. But in a smaller plane, like you could be turning. This is why it's called the spiral. If he takes a slight turn and he's not listening to his instruments, or maybe his instruments are off a little bit, basically once you've stayed in that turn for a long enough time, your body starts to feel like you're not turning anymore if you can't see anything. So it's just like pitch black in front of you, so you don't think you're turning.
Right.
So then what happens is, how do I explain this? This is very difficult. Hold on. Let me see if I can.
You got this.
You don't think you're turning, so then you start to turn left again when you think you need to verge left, to bank left. So then you're actually just putting yourself in a circle. So now you're flying in a circle, and you then have the feeling that once you're actually flying straight, the pilot has this feeling that he's instead turning left a little bit since his body was getting used to turning right for so long. Is any of this making any sense? Basically,
yeah, you're saying basically like it basically tricks your mind. So the same way the wall looks like it's getting closer or farther, the same way your body feels like when you're in one position for a very long time, it doesn't feel like you're turned anymore.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. So he could literally be, and you don't really notice, but you're spiraling and you're flying downwards.
Oh shit! And you don't know?
Yes.
That's spooky.
So what he thinks is a plane it's very possible that it was just those 4 planets and the one star, which would make that shape he was describing. And it looks like it's flying because he's spiraling. So he thinks he's flying straight. In actuality, he's spiraling downwards and the sky is staying still, but he thinks it's flying all around the place, right?
Yeah.
So then he mentioned a green light. Well, he could have seen the reflection of his blinking green light because his aircraft had 2, one on each side, blinking green lights. Once he got closer to the water, he could have seen the reflection of it. So he's spiraling downwards, but not straight down. It's not like a nosedive spiral. It's like a slow spiral like this. And he thinks he's flying straight.
Oh, shit.
So he's seeing the reflection, possibly seeing the reflection of his blinking green light in the water below, which he's about to crash into. But he thinks that's like has something UFO type to do with it. And then, he wasn't the best pilot. He was only 20 years old. And then he could have potentially just fucking crashed into the water and it was just an accident.
Right.
Or another theory is that he was actually abducted by a UFO. This could have been a UFO and he was just abducted by it, because we do have the photograph, which was weird, but can also be explained away. I encourage you guys to look at it and come up with your own conclusion. There also was that farmer who said that he saw something, but there was also a fucking meteor shower that night. So it could have been a number of things. Also, the people who saw something could really believe that they saw a UFO because you don't expect to see a fucking airplane spiraling like this. So people are seeing a green light flashing, going in a circle like this, and some people explain that. That would explain just his aircraft going into the graveyard spiral, the fucking death spiral of death. Literally, I'm in it right now. Here I go. Watch me go. That's how I felt this morning. I was so hungover, and the room I was in had like the you have to duck to like walk down the stairs, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm dying. It was scary, but I'm here.
Ooh.
I went through it this morning. Okay. I was like really going through it. Who drove home? Mark did. Yeah, he's like, I'm in better shape than you. I was like, yeah. Yeah. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. Okay. I love that show. Anyway, or he was really abducted by UFO. So I think he was just inexperienced and then he entered that death fucking spiral thing. That's what seems plausible to me. Also, not going to say it wasn't a UFO because it totally could have been. But here's the thing that I think is weird. Why did the government they didn't release the actual recording. Mm-hmm. Why did they give an edited version, like an edited copy of this transcript, or not the transcript, I'm sorry, an edited copy of the actual audio to researchers? So another thing was later, I was listening, I forget what his name is. I wrote it down somewhere, but it's not in this document. I might have put it on my phone, but I will link who this guy is below in the sources. He had talked to Rhonda. She's been pretty open about it years later. I mean, they were dating for only a couple months when she was 16, but she got sucked into this whole fucking massive thing, and she was like interrogated, and she had to deal with a lot of like the government trying to figure out shit like this. But she said that she ran into someone who actually had investigated it and had questioned her. He recognized her. They were in like a fucking Kohl's or a Sears or something. This is like in 2000.
Doesn't Mark love Kohl's?
I guess. I don't know.
You told me he loves Kohl's.
Well, this isn't about Mark now, is it?
You're not wrong.
So they're in this Kohl's, what have you, in Australia, and this guy comes up to her, and he hinted at, and I don't think he was doing it in a cryptic way, but the conversation they had was like he remembered her, she remembered him, and the cryptic thing he said was that there was more to the transcript than was actually released. So he was leaning towards like when he said it's not an aircraft, those were the last words that we know that he said. Well, this person she ran into in Kohl's said like that may not have been his last words.
Right. Well, this person came up to me in Kohl's and they said...
Well, it was a guy who was investigating it. And yeah, so I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like we don't even fucking know if he was flying or not. And I feel like without that like piece of info, it's very hard for me to like...
Well, he was flying. We just don't know where he was actually flying.
I feel like it's a possibility that he did that graveyard thing. Because I feel like if you're flying over the ocean, the weather tends to be worse.
Well, that wouldn't have been it. That's not what starts the graveyard spiral. The weather was fine that night. What starts it is an inexperienced pilot flying at night, which is what it was.
I feel like it might have been.
Right. That's why I'm convinced kind of it was that. But also then if you look into it, his dad thinks that he was abducted by UFOs. Oh. But I think that might just be because it's a dad who's like, my son didn't die in a plane crash. He's out there somewhere and he's going to come back type deal.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Just being like dead on him.
Right. Right. And also I think his girlfriend Rhonda said like, they talked about aliens once. But then when this case broke, and everybody started saying it was a UFO. Well, the government went with it and was like, he's this crazed UFO dude who like was obsessed with it. And it was just a plane crash and he staged something is what they were hinting at. Mm-hmm. They were like, it was a plane crash. It was fatal. He was obsessed with UFOs. He was reading a book that literally everybody was fucking reading, but it just so happened to have to do with... You good? Do you want water? But I just think it's weird that the government was like kind of blasting him with like he was obsessed with UFOs and shit like that, like kind of trying to discredit any sort of anything from him. So I don't know. I believe in aliens.
Yeah, def.
But I don't know if this was an abduction case or not. Personally, personally, I think it's more likely that he was just inexperienced and crashed. Also, another theory people were throwing around was that he was actually upside down and he was seeing his own plane lights on the water reflected above him. But it would make sense. But the plane he was flying, actually, it's impossible to fly that fast for that long upside down for the duration of their conversation. So they were kind of like, well, that's not it. But he could have been this fucking spiral-y situation and just crashed to his death. I don't know. And I guess we technically won't ever really know, I guess.
I'll never tell.
And that's the story of Frederick Valentich.
Wow. Well, hopefully he is resting in peace wherever he may be.
And that's my story.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
This is the story of Antônio Villas Boas.
Amazing.
I don't know if it's Boas, but it's Boas. So
okay.
So this was the first recorded incident of a UFO abduction in the modern age. It happened to 23-year-old Brazilian Antônio Villas Boas. It happened on October 15th, 1957. There's not much to date about Antonio. I try to look on Wikipedia. That's usually where I find like the early life things, but I couldn't. Most of my information is from conspiracyarchive.com. And let's jump right in. The actual abduction occurred on the 15th, like I said, October 15th, 1957. His strange encounters began 10 days earlier. A little after 11 p.m. on October 5th, Antonio spotted a bright white light in the sky as he opened the window to get some air. I mean, not really, like, questionable because...
Could be a lot of things. Right.
Later that night, after sleeping for a while, Antonio woke up and looked around to find the same light still there.
Oh, was it the moon?
Right. Hello. Moving toward him as he looked at it. So he says that this light was like...
moving towards him.
Right. This bright white light. Of course, he was super scared, so he slammed his shutters and he woke his brother up, who watched the same light play through the shutters, like moving towards him as well.
Right.
So
now he's not just the only one seeing it.
Right.
Okay.
So Antonio lived on his family's farm. They had several fields and plantations, which they farmed at night to beat the heat in the daytime. On the 14th, around 9 to 10 p.m., Antonio again with his brother were out tilling the field when they both witnessed an extremely bright light a little over 300 feet above their heads. Antonio left his brother behind and went to go investigate. He got closer and suddenly the bright light darted away at a tremendous speed at the opposite field. This is a direct quote from him. Mm-hmm. He approached it again and again, and it kept darting away. So back to where it started from. So it would get really close.
And then like zoom the fuck away.
Right.
Okay.
So this instance was repeated no less than 20 times.
Oh, shit.
Right. So after that, he was like, all right, I'm not going to catch this thing. He then stated the light kept still for a few moments longer in the distance. Now and again, it seemed to throw rays in all directions, the same as the sun setting. So he was saying that the bright light looked like the sun was setting, like it would just be...
Okay, interesting.
Everywhere. Then it suddenly disappeared, as if it had been turned off. He says, I'm not quite sure if this is what actually happened. I can't not remember if I kept looking in the same direction all the time. Maybe for a few seconds I glanced elsewhere, so it may have lifted up and disappeared before I had time to look at it again. The next day, he worked the fields alone, and when he was in the same spot, so this isn't depicted if it was at night or in the daytime.
Okay.
But when he was in the same spot, him and his brother had witnessed the light the night before. He saw a reddish light in the sky, which zoomed toward him at a remarkable speed. He says, so quickly that it was on top of me before I could make up my mind about, on what to do about it. About 160 feet above his head, it stopped suddenly. The light was so intense that he couldn't see his tracker's headlights through it at 1 a.m.
Okay, so it was at night.
Antonio said it looked like a large, elongated egg with several technical features. 3 legs extended from beneath it, and as it settled to the land, Antonio ran to his tractor in fear. When he reached it, the tractor and its lights both died. Making his escape out of the other side and running towards the house, his arm was grabbed by a small figure in a strange clothes when he shoved it away. 3 more small figures surrounded him and lifted him off the ground by his arms.
So like little Martian bitches?
Yes, little Martians. So this is inside the craft. This is where he had the encounter with...
So they snatch him and they drag him into the fucking... Okay.
Yeah.
I'm here.
It all started. It really happened fast. Antonio described these creatures in great detail. He said all of them wore very tight-fitting, serene suit made of soft, thick, unevenly stripped gray material. This garment reached right up to their necks, where it was joined to a kind of helmet made of a gray material that looked like a stiffer and was straightened back at nose level. Their helmets hide everything except their eyes, which were protected by 2 round glasses, like the lenses in ordinary glasses. Through them, the men looked at me, and their eyes seemed much smaller than ours.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe that may have been the effort of the lenses. All of them had light-colored eyes that looked blue to me, but this I cannot vouch for. Above their eyes, those helmets looked so tall that they corresponded to what the double of the size of a normal head should be. Probably there was something else hidden under those helmets, placed on top of their heads, but nothing could be seen from the outside. Right on top, from the middle of their heads, there sprouted 3 round silvery metal tubes. He says, I can't tell whether they were made of metal or rubber, which were a little narrower than a common garden hose. The tubes, which were placed in one of the middle, one on each side of their heads, were smooth and bent backwards and downwards toward the back. There they fitted into their clothes, how I cannot say, but one went down to the center where the backbone is, and the other 2, one on each side, fitted under the shoulders at about 4 inches from the armpit, nearly at the sides where the back began. I didn't notice anything at all, no hump or lump to show where the tubes attached, nor any box or anything hidden under their clothes.
What if it wasn't their clothes? What if it was their skin?
It's just their skin.
Ooh.
Their sleeves were narrow and tight-fitting to the wrist, where they were followed by thick 5-fingered gloves of the same color. That must have somewhat hindered their movements. As to this, I noticed that the men weren't able to double their fingers together, so as to touch the palms of their hands with the tips of their fingers. The difficulty did not prevent them from catching and holding me firmly, nor from manipulating the rubber tubes for extracting my blood. Okay, hi. This story gets really, really weird. So
yeah. So strap in, because we're going to zoom. Make my heart go boom, boom.
A supernova girl. Those overalls must have been a kind of uniform for all the members of the crew. Wore a red badge the size of a pineapple slice on their chest. Really great detail here.
Hold, please. A pineapple slice? I have never heard anybody
say that.
Like what?
Right.
A pineapple slice. Okay. All right. I'm here for it.
And sometimes it reflected a shiny light. Not a light of its own, but reflections such as those given by a rear lights of a car when another car lights up from behind.
Okay, that's descriptive.
Right. From this center badge came a strip of silvery material, or it might have been flattened metal, which joined onto a broad tightening claspless belt, the color of which I can't remember. No pockets can be seen anywhere, and I don't remember seeing any buttons either. The trousers were also tight-fitting over the butt, thighs, legs, and there was no wrinkle nor crease. There was no visible hem between the trousers and the shoes, which were actually a continuation of the former, being a part of the same garment. So basically, it's just like the pants went right into the shoes.
That's a lot of observation to have if you're like waking up and being like, where the fuck am I?
Right.
Not discrediting him, because I don't even know how long he was there for, but that's a lot.
All of these stories are going to be kind of like,
did it happen?
Right.
But I don't want to be that person. I'm being open-minded.
The soles of their shoes were different from ours. They were thick, about 2 to 3 inches thick. Ooh, they had some platforms.
Ooh,
a little turned up in front.
Love some turn up platforms.
Right? So that the tips looked like those described in fairy tales. Though the general appearances was that of common tennis shoes, but these ones were like curled up, kind of like elf shoes.
I hate that. Why? Functionality, I guess.
Okay. From what I saw later, they must have fitted loosely, for they were larger than the feet could cover. In spite of this, the men's gait was free and easy, for their movements were swift. And then he says, perhaps the suit they wore did interfere slightly with their movements, because they kept walking very stiffly. They were about my height, perhaps a little shorter because of the helmets, except for one of them. The one had caught a hold of me, the one that caught him outside.
Right.
This one did not even reach my chin. All seemed strong, but not so strong that I had fought with one of them one at a time. I should have been afraid of losing. I believe that in a free-for-all fight, I could face any single one of them. But here you are on a fucking UFO. So, what does it really matter?
Okay. So he's like in the spaceship.
Yes. Okay. But, so the interesting thing to note between his description of the creature's clothing and also fairies, the unevenly stripped uniforms sound, unlike the, like, kind of like what elves wear.
Okay, so these might be elves.
They might be elves.
The elf on the shelf at it again.
So, I don't know. It's just like, he seems like he's describing a lot of things, like, from
that he would have previously have seen.
Times. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
potentially things that have already tainted his memory or been in his head.
Right.
Got it.
And of course, he was resisting the best he could, but he found himself being pulled up a flexible, metallic rolling ladder into a hatchway, which was closed behind them. So, basically, kind of like a CAT scan, but like it closes.
Oh.
All the way.
Okay. Love a CAT scan. Claustrophobic.
Now he's inside a small square room. It was bare of furnishings, very brightly lit. He said that he had the lights had square lights in the same metallic walls. Suddenly, an opening appeared from the wall where he was in. So
a door
letting him back out, basically. And
they were being in a tiny ass room,
right? And he was led to another room.
Oh, they got rooms.
In this room, the only furnishings visible was an oddly shaped table that stood at one side of the room, surrounded by several backless swivel chairs, so the ones you see in the doctors. They were all made of the same white metal. The table, as well as the stools, were one leg narrowing towards the floor, where they were either fixed or linked to a movable ring. So he's assuming that all these things are like just bolted to the floor.
Right. I guess if they're fucking zooming across the fucking night sky.
Then they have to go.
Oh, this is like making me notice how uncomfortable I feel in this chair right now. I want something fluffy wrapped around me right now.
We're gonna get you there.
Like a blanket or a dog.
So the abductors grabbed and held him in place while communicating in sounds that he said no resemblance whatever to human speech. So
they were just speaking
a language
in tongues. Okay.
Basically. He says those sounds still make him shiver when he thinks about them. It isn't even possible for me to reproduce them. My vocal organs are not made for it. He compares the sounds to animal grunts. Some longer, others shorter, sometimes containing several different sounds at the same time.
How? I don't like that part.
I have no idea. So these creatures then began undressing him. He kept telling them no, but they obviously couldn't understand him. But they stopped and stared at him a few times as if they were trying to make him understand that they were being polite.
We're just going to probe you, buddy. It's not going to hurt. We just need to take these clothes off. Yeah.
But he said they never hurt him badly.
That's good,
and they didn't even tear his clothes off, with the exception of his shirt. So at this point, he's stripped naked. They're rubbing him all over with a odorless liquid. And then he was prompted in another room with red over the door. He said it was like red writing, but it was scribbles, and he didn't know what it said.
I'm scared. Okay. I don't like that.
Then he said 2 of the figures joined him carrying apparatuses, which they took some blood from his chin, leaving small scars that were later noticed by doctors at the hospital, but caused no pain.
That's weird. Why on the chin?
I wonder why.
I'm skeptical.
He says he was left alone for about an hour and made himself comfortable on a large, featureless foam rubber gray couch or bed in the middle of the room with no legs. So...
What? So it's just like on the fucking floor?
It's just floating there.
Oh, I thought it was on the floor.
It is on the floor, but for me, I'm like...
It's floating.
It's floating. So apparently there was holes in the walls in this room that he's in, and they're at the height of his head. Gray smoke quickly came in through the holes. So at first, Antonio felt nauseated as though he had been suffocated. Then he rushed to one corner of the room, vomited, and after that, his breathing was easier. A little while later, a door opened, and a naked woman walked in.
Oh. Like a human?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I don't want to ruin it, so I'll get there.
Oh, God, what? And then he was on the set of a movie. Fire in the Sky.
I think we can all attest that smoke was probably like some type of chemical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So
I don't know if I'm being sarcastic or not either.
This is quoted from Antonio.
Okay.
He says, she came in slowly, perhaps a little amused at the amazement she saw written on my face. I stared, open-mouthed. She was beautiful, though of a different type of beauty compared with that of the woman I have known. Her hair was blonde, nearly white. It was smooth, not very thick, with the part in the center, and she had big blue eyes, rather longer than round. They were slanted outward, like a pencil-drawn girl's, made to look like Arabian princesses that look as if they were slit.
Oh.
Sometimes his quotes are like not the best. They don't make sense.
Okay.
The eyes look natural regardless.
Oh, they look natural, but they look like somebody drew them.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they look slit. It's fine.
Okay.
There was no makeup. Her nose was straight, not pointed, not turned up, not too big. The contour of her face was different, although because she had very high prominent cheekbones that made her face narrow to a peak, so that all of a sudden it ended up in a pointed chin, which gave the lower part of her face a very pointed look. Her lips were thin, nearly invisible. Her ears were small and did not seem different from ordinary ears. Her high cheekbones gave one the impression that there was a broken bone somewhere underneath, but as I discovered later, they were soft and fleshy to touch.
Oh.
So they did not seem to be made of bone.
Ew, imagine like feel your face right now. Everybody at home listening.
I can't.
Feel your, oh yeah, don't touch, you don't touch.
I don't touch nothing.
Don't touch your face. But like imagine if your jaw was just like gummy.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh,
That was
shit.
Her body was much more beautiful than any I had ever seen before. It was slim, and her breasts stood up high and well separated. Her waistline was thin, her belly was flat, her hips were well developed, and her thighs were large. Her feet were small, her hands were long and narrow, her fingers and nails were normal. She was much shorter than I am, her head only reached my shoulder. Her skin was white, as of like a fair, like basically porcelain, and was full of freckles on her arms. I didn't notice any perfume except a natural female odor. And another thing I noticed...
You're just gonna skate over that. You're just gonna skate over the fucking sushi smell in the room. We're gonna ignore the fish.
Natural female odor.
We just gonna ignore the fish-scented elephant in the room.
But he did notice that her arm hair was bright red, nearly the color of blood.
Whoa. Remember when that guy called Lindsay Lohan a fire crotch?
Yeah, and that's where fire crotch started.
So this lady was a fire crotch?
So Antonio recounts that the woman came towards him in silence, looking at him all while basically looking at him like she wanted something from him. She was pressing herself against him. He understood what her purpose was. So he began to get excited. He ended up forgetting everything and held the woman close, corresponding to her favors with greater ones of his own. Apparently, they had 2 sexual encounters and performed a variety of acts together for about an hour, after which the woman pulled away to leave.
Oh, an hour. You don't say.
He says all they wanted was a good stallion to improve their stock.
So he was just porking her and like space nutting on her?
Yep.
In her?
So basically Antonio went on to say that the encounter was enjoyable, even though the woman refused to kiss him.
Oh, yikes.
The woman preferred to bite his chin while making sounds that in Boa's mind sounded like animal growls. She never spoke. When they were finished, one of the other creatures entered and called out the woman. But before leaving, she pointed to her belly and smilingly...
Ew. She said, we make baby now.
And then she pointed to the sky.
What is that? I don't like that. I'm uncomfortable.
Same.
So at this point, are they still like, is this saucer landed or are they out there in space? So, just like fucking floating around?
Yeah, floating around.
How long is he in this situation for?
I'll get there.
Oh.
So.
And is his family not like, this man is missing? What the fuck?
I'm in the story of him in the ship right now.
All right, I'm here. I got a lot of questions. But this episode did have boobs in it, so that's pretty fun. Look at that. Damn it, Instagram's going to take that down if I put her up.
No way.
Yeah, I'm going to have to put something over her titties.
Fuck.
God damn it, Instagram, change your ways.
So then she went away. He says, I interpreted the signs as meaning to say that she intended to return and take me with her wherever she wanted to live. He's in denial here, because if someone's pointing at their stomach and you just porked, she pregnant and she hype and you getting left.
I hate it. He fucked an alien. I'm jealous.
After the creature came in and took the woman away, they gave Antonio back his clothes. He was led back to the room with the stools and the table where the crew sat and communicated with each other in their strange way, ignoring him. He felt calm. He said, I knew no harm would come to me. Now he
You don't know shit.
Right. Now he had a chance to stalk his surroundings, and he tried to remember all that he could. He noticed that the walls were smooth, metal, and hard, with no windows anywhere. Noticing a box with a glass top that he had, basically, he thought it was like an alarm clock, and he attempted to keep it in his mind and use it as like a...
point of reference of time?
Right.
Oh. Did it have numbers on it? I'm confused.
Not a point of reference of time, but basically like that looks like an alarm clock, but it's not. So when I go back, I'm going to remember alarm clock.
Okay. So he's just making observations and remembering things.
Yes. He attempted to conceal that info. One of the crew...
So is that like an important piece of information?
Yes. So one of the crew basically saw him looking at it, and he instantly shoved him back.
He's like, don't look at my clock anymore.
So Antonio described the clock as having one hand and several marks that would correspond to 3, 6, 9, and 12 of an ordinary clock. However, time passed and the handle didn't move. So it wasn't a clock. It was just like a...
Unless time was going by really slowly.
Right. I don't know. It's very weird. These are aliens, so like we don't know what the fuck they got going on there.
True. They got big titty bitties, I'll tell you that. Okay.
The creatures continued to lead him through the ship, pointing out various interesting features, which Antonio described at a length with a remarkable amount of detail. Antonio stressed that there was no doubt in his mind whatsoever that he was aboard a metal craft. The tour was finally over, and one of the figures gestured him down the ladder. Then he pointed to himself and to the ground. He says, and then a southerly direction in the sky, the same direction the woman had pointed. Antonio was signaled to step back. The ladder retracted, and the ship rose. The tripod landing retracted once again, and once it was in its place, there was no sign of opening through which they led. What? Hold on.
So it was basically like the thing was about to zoom away, right?
Right. Then a buzzing starting to form, and the air grew louder, and then the revolving saucer began to rotate at a great speed while the light turned to many shades of color, finally setting on the bright red light that he had seen previously. Antonio could tell that the ship was starting to gear up, and he kind of knew that, like, okay, I'm about to leave this ship. Right.
This is it.
So when he got down, the UFO started turning unexpectedly fast and producing a lot of larger noises, and the strange ship darted suddenly like a bullet southward, holding itself slightly above air, and then it disappeared.
And that was that? And he's... Oh, I was going to say, is he naked, but he got his clothes back?
So it was about 5:30 in the morning when Antonio returned to his tractor. He said that he was there for 4 hours from the time he'd been picked up. He discovered the tractor had been basically like fucked with, like he says sabotaged.
Right. So it could be like busted now.
Right. Meaning that they were smart enough to know that he would try escaping, and they had knowledge of how the tractor worked. So the battery wires had been detached for about 3 months after his encounter. Antonio suffered various mild medical issues such as excessive sleepiness, which was also commonly found in people who have been abducted. There was a researcher, his name was Bruce Rux. He relates that reluctant to tell a story, Antonio was convinced by Dr. Fontes, who was a professor at the medicine at the National School of Medicine of Brazil, and also a APRO representative, to basically tell the public what happened, which he did on February 22nd of the following year. Antonio had been found to be suffering from radiation poisoning.
Oh, shit.
And the doctor was curious. So among the symptoms were pains throughout the body, nausea, headaches, loss of appetite, seasonally burning sensation in the eyes. There was lesions, like slightly bruising on his body, which went on appearing for months, looking like small reddish dots. It was harder than the skin around them and painful when someone touched them. After the doctor couldn't find out what was wrong with him, he got sent to military intelligence, and he was interrogated and subject to a battery of physical and psychological tests. But most people accept his abduction as an actual occurrence.
So he was missing for how long?
Just 4 hours.
But wait, I'm confused because didn't the truck or his tractor was fucked with for like months? I'm confused.
Yeah, that's after he was abducted.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So he was only gone for 4 hours.
Basically, yeah.
Well, 4 hours, what we know to be 4 hours.
Right.
Okay.
So Antonio basically withdrew from public life to continue his studies. He received a law degree and became an attorney in his city of Goiás. He died in 1992 in Brazil. And that is the story of Antônio Villas Boas.
What if it was just like a fever dream?
Right. Okay, so that is one thing that people say. People also say that he wasn't right to begin with.
Okay.
He was
mentally.
Yes.
Interesting.
So they say, but his brother also says that these things happened.
Right. His brother could have seen it. Could have seen the light or something. But because if my memory serves me properly, the brother was only there for one incident where he saw it through the window. He could have seen that, and then that could have triggered a dream or something, maybe.
Right.
I'm not saying he's lying. He could have been abducted by an alien, but it sounds like a lot. But I'm sure he lived a life of people discrediting him. So, again, not saying that. But also, homeboy became a lawyer after that. Can you imagine, being yeah, this is your appointed lawyer. He was abducted by aliens.
Right.
I would be like, may I press the refresh button and get a new one? Yeah,
can I just not?
Please. Interesting. So do you think he was really abducted? I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical on both of ours in this one.
Only because I feel like these symptoms are common for alien abductions.
Oh, another thing I was going to say about the chin.
Yes.
I feel as though he could have had an injury on his chin because he said the doctors found it.
Right.
And I feel like that could be a big fact that people lean on because they're like, the medical people, the science people, they saw and acknowledged that he had marks on his chin, but because I think that's a strange place for a UFO. I mean, I also don't know what the fuck they're doing, but not a UFO, for a extraterrestrial creature, an alien of some sort, to take blood from on his chin. But that could have been part of his story because he knew he had something there. On his chin, right. So then when he went to the doctors and proved that he had something there, it could have been a lesion before, a scar beforehand. Just a thought. I don't know.
And then there's another thing where people are like, well, if this didn't happen, how did he get all the details?
Right. As a creative writer, he could, pull it.
Right.
He could pull it out. It's not impossible.
I don't know. I think I'm on the fence. I think it could have happened.
I think it could have happened. I don't know.
It really goes into if you even believe in it in the first place.
Right.
Because I feel like if you do believe in it, then the story seems to check out. But if you don't, then you're obviously going to be like, that never happened.
I feel like with any of these situations, I'm always just going to be like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But we did have, I mean, the weird thing with that one story, which stays in my head, which I think was episode like fucking 4 or something that we did, where the girl was found like miles away and her hair had grown and she had like leg hair and armpit hair and pubic hair.
That was crazy.
And, like her fingernails had grown, but she had only been gone for a few hours. And the distance she had traveled, she was like found at a gas station like 1,000 or some miles away. That was weird to me because that's where I'm like, oh shit, this is weird. And she had that scar on her or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like hers was a lot detailed. I couldn't find many like abduction cases where like it was like very detailed with time and like
it's going to be hearsay. And
exactly.
the people who are going to take a lot of time to research and, you know, put together the information to be published online are going to be people who are heavily for UFOs. I'm not saying they're wrong, but like a UFO network of some sort, or like extraterrestrial people who are interested in it, maybe even like subreddits or something, or websites dedicated to it. Of course, they're going to be like, yes, because it's going to further push the narrative of their beliefs. Not discrediting, but just, you know, worth mentioning.
Right.
I don't know. Well, that was a good story. Never heard of it. Did they make a movie or something?
No.
Maybe he has a book based on him.
It's not like it didn't have a lot of information.
Right. I got that. The lady was hot, though. She has nice tits. Great rack. Nordstrom rack. We didn't do a tweet of the week or a fun fact last week. Sorry about that, guys.
All right. I have a twit of the week.
We got wrapped up in our Thanksgiving hullabaloo.
Hullabaloo it is. This is from @Elisa Daydream. She said, when I came out, my mom dramatically said, is it because I watch Ellen DeGeneres? And was serious about it. So whenever I see anything about Ellen, I just think about how my mom thought a woman with a talk show made me gay, like I saw one too many pantsuits and lost it.
I'm done. One too many pantsuits and lost it. Hold on. That is funny as fuck. I screenshotted mine. I have to scroll back. Give me un momento, por favor. All right, this comes from Christine from Simply Nailogical @Nailogical. She says, all I want for Christmas is 8 hours of sleep.
Same.
Because truly, I don't think I've gotten more than 5 hours of sleep.
Same. I don't sleep past 5 hours. I wake up at 5 a.m. for work every day. But like, even on my weekends, I feel like I have to like force myself to go back to sleep like 8 times.
I know, but you're a good napper. You can like...
I don't nap anymore.
But when you did, you're good at like checking out and just being like, this is what I'm doing.
I sure am. I'm like, bye, y'all.
I can't do that. I'm jelly belly. I have a fun fact somewhere, but I'm going to have to go back and find it in my old episode. Hold, please.
Okay, I go. So North Korea and Cuba are the only places you can't buy Coca-Cola.
Probably because of American ties. That makes sense. That does make sense. Yes. Okay. I have a fun fact. It is that, well, I posted this on Reddit and it ended up on the top landing page for the Today I Learned subreddit, and a lot of people, it's a stupid fun fact. So basically on that 70s show, Fez, his name stands for like foreign exchange student.
Yeah.
But they did like FEZ because that's like his name, right? But I love that show, but I haven't watched every single fucking episode. I'm not like a huge fan. So once it started like growing on Reddit, people were just like, oh, I'm surprised that a fucking fan wouldn't know that they've referenced us in the show a lot. And I was like, I literally didn't say I was a fan. This is called Today I Learned, and this is what I learned today.
Hi.
So I'm just here telling you. I'm
nasty shit out of here.
And we don't need your negativity.
We don't.
But we do need your support. So we thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate it. Follow us on social media. Head over to esotericoddities.com if you want more pictures from today, because on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, I feel like I say this all the time, but like we can only post X amount of photos. So we go into a lot more detail. We post a bunch more photos and all of our sources and shit like that on the website. So check it out. Check it out. www.esotericoddities.com. So until next time, stay spooky, our friends. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.